Pause for
We house ourselves in public works and science as well. And yeah, we work with Sam quite a bit.
So do you manage the staff that actually goes places signs? Or do you work with Public Works to actually do the work for you?
Yeah, our section has a guy that's over signs. Justin's he's in there, he's over street lights and signal tech.
So if he turns it red, we're coming.
So, yeah, it's more of the infrastructure. I'm more of the timing, so I'd be more by around.
So they got your license plate down,
Yeah,
they see it
it's-
coming,
That's
red.
what these cameras are for. So I know exactly who to stop it for. You know, one person's red is another person's green.
Do the police have the same kind of thing?
Uh,
Street camera like that, or-
yeah,
or
these
they
same
share?
feeds will go to
The
the
police
station. So they're dispatched. I'm not sure how they're connected now that they're down in Provo, but
Who's the problem? Dispatch?
Our dispatch is combined.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
yeah.
It's been about a month.
Yeah. Their house now down in the Provo Center, City Center.
Oh, the new building.
Is that
So
for-
do they move like, do they move the physical location or do they move dispatch to Provo?
Our dispatchers are down there.
They're working from Provo.
So is it better technology situation for them there? Or better coordination or? what
Cost
was the
effective,
decision?
probably cost
It's
effective.
some of all of the above.
Yeah.
We were having a shortage of dispatchers. Provo was having the same problem. And they had this brand new building with facilities and being able to send, like if there's a call in South Orem, Provo Police is actually closer to that.
Right,
And so the plan is, and the vision is that it'll actually be better dispatch service, first responder service for everybody in Orem and Provo and Linden. As well, Linden's up there.
so it kind of fuzzy the lines up along.
The first step in
river beds.
combining the two cities that people have been trying to do for 20
Well, right
years.
now, a 911 call, if you were in southeast Forum, it was going to Provo Dispatch anyways. Just the geography and how things were set up. If you were on a cell phone or anything like that, they were already receiving that call per se. So it was kind of because of the current technology with cell phones and whatnot, we're already doing that.
Kind of fuzzy
Yeah,
down.
sure.
And the reality is dispatch position here for Orem, even pre-COVID, I've been here for 20 years, has always been a tough spot to retain employees. So it kind of helps with that too, because they're constantly having to go through and train, and it's high stress. Just the nature of that whole thing, it's been a big challenge. So now that we can combine resources, I think hopefully it's better operated. You have the folks there, hopefully you have less turnaround, so things like that, so.
Why do you have Provo cameras?
Good
For
question.
here.
So we run the BYE traffic.
Oh, you're doing that. You control the traffic coordination now, right?
We did all that from our TOC. Provo has a separate TOC, but we have a lot more views. And so during those big events, we'll bring in staff from Provo. Provo PD shows up so they can, we can communicate directly with the police in the field. And if we see things, we can notify
They don't even
them
know about it.
first, vice versa. Everything for those games is remotely controlled, with the exception of one signal right in the stadium. Yeah, so we've been doing it for years, and so we just have a partnering thing that we do with Provo.
Well, hopefully you'll get pictures of more idiot license plates and send tickets in the mail for good behavior on the way out of the stadium.
Yeah, it's crazy what we see. We don't record any of our video. That's
Right.
that's an agreement with the state. We're all on one network with UDOT and all the other states. And so we can see and access everything in St. George and see it live. Everything, all the signal information is collected every second, so we can see exactly what's happening second. But we can go in there if you'd like.
I see they like to block the cameras that are showing it. Do they do that to you too, or is that just for the public?
So is that,
They have, no, water reclamation is down at a facility off of 10 South, kind of by the golf course.
They have the green.
Yeah, so here you have, the very far end on here, you have the stormwater section, street section, parks, water. Then this way you have traffic operations and fleet. So that's what's housed here.
How much longer is this meeting gonna go? If it's much longer, I need a rest.
There's a restroom right over there. So go out and take a left and then take a right at the end there. If anyone needs to. Yes, there's that. I think you might have his pizza as well. Yeah, if there's, you need a restroom, there's down there. But yeah, you have, all of our salt is stored here. We have a new brine tank building where we actually on our snowplow vehicles are equipped with a tank for brine. And we actually, what that does is we pre-wet all of our salt as it's coming out. So essentially that salt is activated, so it's hitting and starting to work immediately. So we're not spraying brine down, but we're just activating, wetting that salt. That's a building out there. A lot of this building out here, this shed is for water. They store a lot of the parts in there, fittings and valves and things like that. Out this way on the other end, we have some of the impound for public safety. You have like all the bikes they find or things like that. Then you have, of course, Fleet's got 4 or 5 bays down there. It's obviously pretty big operation. They got all the equipment in there to work on the fire apparatus to pull them up on a lift and lift them up and work. So
That's a big lift.
yeah, yeah. What else? Yeah, we got a lot of material storage out there. We've been, as we go and do concrete work or asphalt, they'll come and stockpile it. We will go and rent a crusher. We'll crush it and use it for road base and things like that around any of these areas where they're doing a lot of excavation and there's sand. We'll stockpile it. We use sand to bed all of our water mains. Just so that if there's a leak, sand has a tendency of keeping that water there and then it comes straight up. If we bed it in gravel, it would travel wherever until it stopped and then pop up. You wouldn't just want to days. Yeah. But yeah. No, you're fine.
When was this building built?
I believe this was 05.
Oh, it's in that one.
Yeah, it was a part of a property trade.
Yes, I remember that. That's good.
Yep.
Because I live up there, so my kids would drive down that street by the public works.
UDOT used to be next to it and they
Mhm.
relocated to here. And then those people that own this gave us a proposition and traded parcels.
Good deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's worked out really well.
Oh, yeah.
Did you all know you can recycle glass over here in the parking lot?
Got a big bin on it.
And it's really fun to chuck it in. It's very satisfying when you're really, really angry. Bring some glass.
Just a big bin.
It's a big dumpster, yeah, enclosed dumpster.
Nice, I didn't know. I didn't either. That's so much fun.
Feels guilty throwing away glass.
I know, you don't have to. I just have a little tub and when it gets full, I bring it down.
Or when you get mad.
Yes.
Work out some
Mhm.
anxiety. I like
Sounds
that.
like city newsletter around there because
Man, we just all kinds of great ideas coming out today.
Yes.
I had no idea we could recycle glass.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions about the facility or anything?
Great idea. Still it.
Any other questions for Taylor?
Sorry the tour took so long.
That was cool. That was really fun.
Very fun.
Thanks for your guys' time. So now you guys know names with faces. So if you got problems with detection, do a hey Orem with 311. You can specifically call out Justin or Taylor. So 8 South isn't working tonight. They're probably gonna respond and say, go to bed, Jay.
Bedtime.
But yeah, but if you guys, I mean, that's the thing is obviously you saw how many different hands and hats these guys wear, how busy they are. If there's things you see, even if in there, I mean, if you want, you have my contact info. If you see something, hey, look at this. This looks like it's awkward or it's not working or it's not functioning. Or if even if it's a street light, the audits too. If there's something, some of them have strobed. They have to be running for a while for it to happen. They check it during the day, it works fine, but anything like that.
When the power goes down, they go to flashing, you guys reset them, or they come back on when they?
They should come back on. So if power goes out completely, they'll go black. If they're flashing, there's usually a problem that we have to go figure out.
Yeah, we had the outage, what, a month ago now? Maybe 3
Down on the
weeks?
south end.
Yeah, on the south end, and
Yeah.
everything was out.
Yeah.
Luckily Parkway was not, or that would have been.
Parts of Parkway were coming off the freeway.
But state wasn't,
No, state didn't, but coming off the freeway,
there's some down there.
all of them up to, well, I turned left at 400 West and it was all dark. And there were officers out, multiple officers at every intersection, and it looked
Oh,
like,
that's good. See,
multi-agency.
state, nobody was out of state, we were just winging it.
yeah,
It was a little dicey, but
Some of those have a backup battery system.
And depending on how long it's gonna be out, we've added a plug on the outside of the cabinet. So we can plug a generator in without even opening the door.
yeah,
Open the little police panel and flip the switch, and it'll run on a generator as long as we keep gassing it. That one was one of those that we only have 2 generators, and it wouldn't have mattered if 2 of our signals worked.
yeah, it's not gonna.
Until the
Change
state can
much.
get all of theirs running, ours can matter. So.
What was it? We know what caused that outage?
And well, they surged the substation down.
Good. I think the only thing we have left is just to go over the TMP. I know, did you guys, I haven't had a chance to review it myself. I've been busy. Did you guys get a chance to look at it?
About the first 20 pages. About 160
Maybe
pages.
don't
I
they
didn't
change
touch it.
much, or they just?
I haven't looked at it since I sent you the comments on the first.
Okay.
I haven't come back and checked those. I've seen them. But there were a couple of questions that talked about enhanced lights that they're gonna install at certain intersections, and what do we have currently and what is an enhanced light?
I think they were talking about,
Signal enhancements.
well, was it signal enhancement or just intersection enhancements?
I think it was signals at several of the, I noticed in the north area, there's some, I don't know what to call up and look at it, but just wondering what that means.
Was that our left turn arrows? Install them on
Maybe
Oh.
the flashing yellow arrows.
Okay, so the permissive turn lines.
If it was signal enhancements, I'm thinking it was probably the flashing yellow arrows that we did with our,
Yeah, I remember they were going, they had a
That's
starter
project.
truck.
That's probably what it was.
and we did that, that was after we did 2015, so they probably didn't go through all the projects. I think that's why not.
And then there was one place where it referred to traffic circles, and another place it referred to roundabouts. I assume that's the same thing, but is there a
There is a
Nuance?
difference.
There is a difference, size maybe.
size? Okay.
So I'm planning to bring this next week. Next week is the 9th. No, yeah, the day after the election, we have a city council work session. And I'll be providing an update to the council at that time. You guys are all welcome to come to there and speak to that too.
The council chambers.
It will be actually across the hall in the council conference room. So the work session, we go to the work session to give them, the council members, an update on things before we bring it actually to council session and
Open.
actual public hearing. So you guys are all part of that, whereas the council will look to the TAC for positive recommendation, negative recommendation, approval, however you want to word it. But they look to you as kind of that vetting authority besides Sam and Public Works, Justin Taylor, that you guys have looked at it too, and you guys approved and are comfortable with it. So that's probably your right now, the way it's done, that's your biggest role, which is pretty major. I mean, the transportation master plan, you're committing to, things like our traffic impact study items in there, how we address traffic calming, looking at level of service, and identifying those projects that are in there, both for the city of Orem as well as any public transit, active transportation. Understand the need for committing budget amounts if we're doing a roadway project. There's also active transportation that we need to consider those things. So there are some pretty good implications and things in that plan. It's not just kind of, well, we'd like to do this and not fund it. No, there's actually a lot of things in there that afford us a guide when folks come in, like for instance, traffic calming, there's an actual process in there that we should follow. And you might want to look at that, because if you're in your neighborhood and you would want traffic calming, these are the steps, and we have like the toolbox of essentially a menu of items that you can choose from, and then we go ahead and figure out ways to install it, implement it, and things like that. So yeah, if you get a chance to go ahead and look at that, review that, because we will be held to those processes. At least I will, because it defines it. It's pretty easy approach to present to people. Because right now on 18th South from Main Street to Sand Hill Road, we've had a citizen come to us, wanted to look at speed. We did do a speed analysis, and we got speeds. Yeah, and it's a straight shot. It's down a hill. So with that being said, we really need to go to that person now, and they need to at least get 50% of that neighborhood, of that area on board, so then we can move forward. Because if we don't get that, then we end up having meetings where
Why'd you do that?
exactly, and it turns into 5 hours of brain damage. We'd rather be home, at least watch, it'd be The Bachelorette. I don't know if you guys want to watch it.
It's a
It'd be
World
better than
Series
going through
tonight.
that meeting. But anyways,
So it's
yeah,
next Wednesday, next week,
yeah, so next Wednesday.
what time?
Yeah,
7?
it'll be in the work session, so I'm not sure when we are.
Maybe have Cheryl send that out to us.
Yeah, I'll find out the exact time on that agenda, because we have an agenda prep tomorrow, so we'll kind of figure out how much time we're gonna be needed for those things. I mean, how much time do you think we need to speak to that? Half hour, 45 minutes?
Depends on how much question comes from the council. And I mean, if you go up and say, hey, here it is, we think it's great, and we recommend it, and they don't ask any questions, it could be a 5 minute.
Have they read the whole thing?
Well,
Are
no,
they supposed to?
and we'll make sure that they have the opportunity to read that too. What I will do is I will go there and say, here, we're updating the plan. These are the major items, and I'll briefly go over some of the highlights, some of the bigger things we want to make sure were updated. Some of it was the zoning, because I think in the previous plan, we had the State Street districts, though, those have been removed. We looked at project lists, kind of identify the difference between some of the calming measures between traffic circle and a roundabout. But the biggest things I know the council will be aware of will be making sure there's not an emphasis on high density or any of our plan referencing things that aren't currently in currency.
And any changes, and any of those changes that are highlighted, and that's.
Yeah. So that's what I would do. And if you guys had any questions, or you can ask me. Q&A, because I don't know. Do you think there's going to be a lot of questions?
I don't imagine a whole lot of questions.
What they'll probably do though is listen to you and then have you come back for questions a month later or something.
Well, so this is kind of that time where I'll review it. We'll give it to the council. I don't know how many of them will review it prior to the work session, maybe 1 or 2. If they have questions.
They have to approve it, don't they?
Yeah, so we will actually bring it to them in a public hearing again. or not approved, or approved with conditions, or that they would like to do.
The planning commission have anything to do with it?
The only thing, so once this is approved, and that's one of those things, that there's projects that are identified in there. They've been approved by the transportation master plan. And then a project comes in for site plan approval. We have that there, that's when we would have the site plan to be adjusted accordingly. And planning commission is essentially that last check and balance to make sure that's meeting all the ordinances that's been identified with the plan. And we're not just asking them to widen the road to 7 lanes. It's been identified in this plan. They'll have that there. They just essentially make sure we're not overstepping our bounds of staff.
Are we under the assumption that the projects that are outlined in there are the only ones we're going to be doing?
So what do you mean?
Well, I mean, it outlines the 10-year and the 30-year.
The priorities.
Right, and I mean, I assume that stuff could come up later where we deviate from that, or is that the roadmap for real?
So that's the roadmap we have now currently. And that could change. Right now, I know there's been a question brought up and a concern. We do need to update our bicycle and pedestrian master plan. Likely, if there was some major direction we wanted to take with that, if we wanted to invest more into complete streets, if we're looking at buffered bike lanes, something along those lines. And I mean, even to that point, I mean, understanding that this is an update, likely in a few years, we could do a whole new plan. Laura made a really good point in our last meeting. She's more of the opinion that we probably should have this philosophical change of, you know, and that could be in this meeting too. It's like, is there something in there that says, you know what? Our maximum road width that Forum's going to build out to is 5 lanes. We're not going to go 7 lanes. So on any of these bigger corridors, we can just wrap our heads around that we're only going to build ourselves out to a 5-lane cross section. Anything bigger, we're just going to live with it. And we're going to look at other means, you know, other modes, other means of transportation. And maybe that's something that needs to be put in there. And maybe that's something that the council can buy off on, because Center Street's identified to go to 7 lanes. But I mean, it's your guys' community. I live here too, and I have ownership too, but really you guys are the ones that will live here and see it. And if you'd rather see, hey, we want to be more active, we want to be more progressive, we want to do other things besides that, we'd like to enhance bus service, we'd like to build facilities for more cycling or e-scooters or whatever. I mean, I take that direction, we can modify. Understanding this is an update, but we can have something in there that addresses that.
What's the periodicity of updates on this?
We usually try and do a master plan update is usually anywhere from 5 to 7 years, because the master plan ties into the impact fee facility plan, and our impact fees are based on projects we've identified, and then we have a certain window to utilize and spend that money. If we don't spend the impact fees we collect on impact fee facility projects, then we're supposed to get that money back. So every 5 to 7 years, we'll go ahead and reevaluate to make sure, one, that we've been spending that money. Two, if projects change, do we want a new direction? Sometimes it's a new council change. It's like, you know what, we're tired of vehicles. We want to, we could get a council that loves public transportation and cycling and want to lower the speeds to 15. I mean, you just don't know, right? And they could want us to go ahead and update it and do as they ask. So usually it's every 5 to 7 years. This is an update.
When
But
was the last one?
the last one was in 2015. So,
You know, like, where's that funding come from? Is that just taxes or?
impact fees.
Yeah.
It's actually from building construction development. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking, you know, the feds require when you get HSIP funding, you have to report back every 3 years on how good your projects were. Right, so you present your project based on an anticipated impact, safety impact usually. And then every 3 years you have to report on those projects and how they actually did. It would be interesting to see some sort of feedback loop these things where we look at the projects that have been done and see how they've affected traffic based on the expectations and the reality, right? So we know we're doing the right thing and we're
So for
progressing.
example, the level of service, if
Exactly.
you expect it to drop down to a B, the reality is it's stated
It's
it's
still, you know,
and then we didn't make any impact. I mean, obviously, if it stayed, if you made the road bigger, but the level of service stayed the same, all you did was open up a quarter for more cars to come through. You didn't really improve this.
One thing to consider though too is thousands and thousands of apartments that are being built. And not just in Orem, but Provo, everywhere around, and they're using our streets to get to them. I mean, it's way over, I mean, it's great for the economy, but the roads aren't ready for it. So
Some of
Center
them
Street's not.
Some of them are not, you're right. And- But at the end of the day, I mean, does that force a change in philosophy? When I lived in Mexico for a couple of years, there was a bus coming down the street every 3 minutes. And you didn't have to wait 45 minutes for the next bus. You could actually get places. And so, it's kind of a chicken and egg with public transportation. We don't have enough public transportation to make it feasible. The only thing that's feasible for me on public transportation right now is to get on the bus and ride down to the stadium for the football game and then turn around and come back to where I parked my car. That's the only service line that makes any sense for me. I would like to use it more.
you're talking about BYU,
I am.
you still go to the games?
I do. I'm going to the game Saturday.
Are you really? That's a dedicated man
And-
right
and
there.
my wife who graduated from Boise bought me an orange shirt. that I
Oh, there
could
you
wear.
go. That's where you go.
And I'm like, really? You're gonna do that to me?
Wow.
This guy had to ride the UVU train till it's finally starting to show up, so I don't know. Finally got the big win last
I
year.
know, I was there.
I think you were on TV a lot,
A lot.
because you guys were, we were watching
We were
that
right
game,
there, yeah, that was fun.
but you're right.
For which game?
The UVU BYU basketball.
Um,
Yeah, back in the, I think typical BYU starts out ranked. I
Mhm.
think they're amazing and then disappoint.
Well, this year's been a difficult year on the football, with no defense. I mean, like when they went to Liberty, I'm pretty sure they left the defense here. Most of those guys, I don't know who
600
they
yards
were,
or something.
but anyway.
Took the high school.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
The high school subs.
But at the end of the day, the change from single use traffic where I go get my car and I go somewhere and I come back and everybody is doing that. Very few, if any, ride share or anything like that going on. The only way to break that is to increase the public transportation. Well, we don't have that kind of funding. You can put in bike lanes and it'll get 3 people. I mean, I'm not riding a bike. And most people I know are not gonna get on a bike. There's a certain percentage of people that will, but most of them are already on their bike. And making it safer for them would be great, we should. But we're not gonna increase the number of people getting on their bikes because we put in bike lanes. Not, maybe there's a small percentage, but it's not appreciable. Having a bus go by every couple of minutes and being able to get somewhere, like if you ride the train in Salt Lake, the tracks, it's great to go north and south. If you have to go from Sandy Expo Center to downtown, you get on the tracks and it's a decent ride. But if you have to go east and west in Salt Lake anywhere, then you're waiting an hour, 45 minutes for a bus, and then you transfer to another one. And if you miss it, it's another hour. It's not feasible. And it's even worse here with the buses. We don't have good enough service. So how do we resolve the increasing cars? If we don't build bigger roads,
Build less apartments.
I mean, it's the age-old problem. Where do people live? And people want to live here. We've got inbound. We've got more people coming in than leaving right now. And I don't know. It's tough, but I look at my kids, they can't afford housing.
No. Same. I've got them in my basement because they can't afford it.
Right, nobody can afford housing, so it's all tied together. I don't know
Orange
what
is
the
too bright,
solution is.
it's too bright, everyone wants,
That's the hard
the
part
whole
of
world
this.
wants to live in
I
it,
mean,
clearly.
there's, when we would have corridor projects, when we did a project at Fourth West and 16th North, understanding I haven't really fixed that whole signal yet. But those folks, we bought their home on the corner and we relocated them, I think, to Santa Clara. Bigger home, nicer home, better property. I mean, it was all great, but they just still missed the fact that in Orem, they were just a few minutes away from getting all the amenities. Now they had to drive 20 minutes.
Right.
So I mean, to your point, just have a lot of things here that attract
do.
folks to want to be here.
And nice people, so
So
it's a good place to live.
My boss lives in rural Virginia, and he has to drive 30 minutes to get to a convenience store. And that's the closest that he can get to buy anything. And I look at it and I've got Lowe's and Home Depot and the mall and the cars and Ross and Best Buy and Staples and whatever within 5 minutes of my home in any general direction. It's insane how convenient everything is here. But that's part of the problem. People want convenience. They want to be here. And, close to two major universities. Where else do you have two
Beautiful
major
view.
universities 5 minutes apart?
Yeah.
You just don't have it.
So, I mean, those are some of the things we think about. I mean, if we want a more public transit oriented process, I mean, we can engage those things with UTA. Obviously, it always comes down to funding, but those are things in this master plan. If there's something in there in the overview, if there's a direction you would like to see, obviously, some will not appreciate higher density and doing all those things, but usually it's, to your point, the only time public transit is great is when things are congested, like you would be going to a game. Well, that means our roads would have to look similar to make that, which means there's a lot of growth. So it's chicken and egg. It's all about funding and getting around. But I mean, that's kind of why it's your guys' plan, and you guys can look at those visioning statements, and there's things in there that we should be looking for, giving some guidance, provide that input.
It feels like we are more reactive than proactive with just about everything. Even though we're looking 10 years down the road and making some plans, that still feels reactive because it's going to happen. We aren't shaping anything. We're just reacting to what we know is going to happen.
I would say yes and no. I mean, I think there was some of these things, I guess that's part of it is looking at, because I can say from a staff level, when we went through the State Street districts, we were looking out in the future and trying to plan and looking at, okay, we're gonna try and where's the best place for public transit to be? We have this footprint, there's a lot of vehicles that are here already. This probably makes sense. The thing is you put that in place, knowing that it's going to take years for it to get going. So we thought, hey, let's just try and plan it for here and move forward. Ogden City, they are 20 years in the making of that whole reshaping of that downtown area at 25th Street. I think whatever it is, it's kind of at the end of commuter rail. I mean, it's taken them 20 years to get it to where it is today. And that's kind of what you kind of need to look at. It's like 20 years from now, where would you want to have enhanced bus service? Where would you think would be the best place? You had to have, if you were to bring in Silicon Slopes and there were a bunch of people that wanted to come here, where would they likely need to go? Because it's a growing thing. People are looking at quality of life. They want to be able to be within minutes of their work, whether it's in an urban setting or rural. They don't want to have to do big long commutes. So
The State Street Master Plan was forward-looking. And like he said, it was planning for density in certain places. And therefore, the transportation could then plan ahead for that increased density at that spot.
because we were looking at other cross streets too, because we realized State Street's like a big moat. You don't have a whole lot of east-west through there. Even to get to Orem Boulevard or get to Main Street or Fourth East, it's kind of restricted. And as that came in, understanding that it was probably a little aggressive to be at 5 different spots. Maybe we should have looked at Center Street and then University Parkway and the mall area, kind of look at those areas because they're a little bit bigger parcels. The residential is a little further away. We probably should have just stuck to those. see how it developed and maybe went to the other ones, but hindsight's always 2020. But anyways, but yeah, if you guys see those things in there, those visioning statements, provide that. I mean, and that would be good for the council to hear as well. It's like, we felt like we needed to add this because we look at where we're going, we look at where all the other communities are going. We have 30% pass-through traffic. We're growing. We have 2 universities within this. We really need to be looking ahead and forward thinking. I think the council, will be willing to listen to that coming from citizens of the city with different backgrounds versus staff who is pretty close to it every day and we go to conferences. So.
Okay, I'm gonna say something that probably isn't gonna be very popular. But I feel like when I looked at the plan, this wasn't in my head at all that I could revise it
Right.
or philosophize or anything like that. I wonder if we need more time so that, I mean, we, as a group, we haven't talked, we didn't meet much for several months. I wonder if we need to kind of come together on something,
We can.
on some philosophies,
I would
rather
agree.
than, because now you're talking about Center Street, and I'm like, no, I don't want 7 lanes on Center Street. That'd be terrible. It'd ruin the whole city center and Mountain View and everything else. Like, so when you say that, I'm like, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know that we could do that. Maybe that's my problem, but
Well, no, and most of my comments were from an editor
yeah, me
standpoint.
too. That's how I was
editorial.
looking at it.
Not an opinion.
Yeah.
Philosophical.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I found a couple of typos.
No, that's-
earlier.
So can we have more time? Can we, or is that a disaster? Like, does
Well,
it need to be?
I think if we do that, what we should do is meet together as a group, come up with a philosophy and some bullet points or an outline of what we'd like to see, and then agree on that or close to agree on it, and have 1 or 2 of us assigned to write it up
Yeah,
as a statement from us as a group, rather than each of us trying to write our own.
oh, yeah.
Have a meeting dedicated to just talk about. And if each of us will put in the time to read as much as we can stomach and have the ideas, like it says Center Street's gonna be 7 lanes, I don't like that. And, okay, yeah, you got my vote, you get it, we all agree on that, then if we each go through it, I think each of us will find something that either resonates or doesn't resonate, and say, hey, from a philosophical standpoint, do we want to stick with this or not?
But you have to remember, you're on the city council timeline now too. 'Cause if
Well,
next week, if they
We
go
are,
through,
but I'm just going to the work session for an
Right.
update.
but if they said, we're gonna have a public hearing next month, or
Well, we can,
we can propose something,
yeah,
but
we
it's
can be
there.
flexible on that. I mean,
Yeah.
if it needs to be massaged and worked, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, there's not a deadline that we're up against to have this done by a certain date. I think we've just been trying to move it along to get it done.
But if we're making progress and have made a philosophical shift on how we want to work on it, then you could accommodate an extra month.
Yeah,
So I
We're
think that's
just
better
in the,
than,
we're in the
I think that's
process.
better than just going along with what we have, because
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why you're here, is to add your input and your.
Are you on the city council?
Yes, and your
Okay.
philosophical ideas from a wide variety of different perspectives versus this is where we are, this is what we have. And so the only changes we can make is we've got this is spelled wrong. And that,
Yeah.
that thing. So I honestly, I think that's why you're here. And that's what we would want you to do, is to.
I don't think we've done that. I think some of us did the job that we thought we had, which was to be an editor. Look for obvious things, but I did not read it with the idea of general philosophy.
How much input do you have? I mean, did Horace just go and do this thing and present it to you, or is this your baby? Who's, I don't want to re-philosophize,
No,
right, what Orem has input into this, or is this Horrocks, in which case I have no problem telling blocks how we want our city.
No, this was, I mean, we wanted a guide for us to look at projects to say, hey, what are the triggers? Levels of service when we're looking at intersections, levels of service when we're looking at corridors. What are some ways that we can go about doing traffic calming? I mean, we're looking at how we go to approach a project so that if we need to go and we want to do a signal project, we need to go to talk to Marlon and say, we need to buy your home. Well, it helps if all this has been identified in the plan, it's been approved, so that they understand it's not like just me going up saying, I really want to buy this because Marlon, I don't like him anymore. We're just gonna buy him.
Get
We're
him
not
out
gonna
of
do a
town.
signal, you know what I mean?
He's
So,
wearing a Boise State shirt.
yeah, so I mean, it's those things is where we need a plan because we can't just be willy-nilly, let's put in a signal here. It's like,
Right.
well, if you've never identified it, you haven't identified the criteria, it's really hard to go up and say, Marlon, I need to buy your home, or me to go and say, Jeff, you guys need to invoke, condemnation. He's really being hard. It's like, well, Sam, you even have a plan, you even have level of service, it's operating at a level of service A. Why do we want to buy this property? So that's kind of the reason why we have a master plan, so we know what to do with our capital dollars. And then, traffic calming is something that comes up every spring and every fall. Soon as school starts or the spring starts, everyone gets a driver's license. It's nice outside. But it's kind of those guidelines for us to operate, but it's with citizen input. And then from them, from the scientific standpoint of data collection, levels of service, I mean, how you can cope with speed and things like that. So just to
I mean,
kind of understand.
How high up were those speeds on 1800 South?
The 85th was around 35.
And it's a 25? So it feels like, even if we don't get 50%, that's the threshold, right? We have to have 50% of the people in that corridor agree to do something before we do something. It's either that or it's raise the speed limit to 35, right? Like those are really your options.
Well, but if you have a guideline that if speeds are exceeding by 40%, which is the case, 10 miles out of 25, then maybe there's a threshold we put in the plan that says, you know what, no matter what happens, it would facilitate.
Well, that's what I'm
the
saying. That's my point, right? So is there something that needs to be in the plan, like the 50% is the threshold for traffic calming, and we're gonna do it, right? Or are there other options? I mean, is that what we want it to say?
That's how it's written now. If we wanted to modify it, change it, it's 40%. I mean, if we get to 45, we get to 60. I mean, whatever it is, I mean, basically we have to come in with a really good argument so that the council feels comfortable backing staff when,
So do they have to pass off on traffic calming?
well, yeah, it becomes very political. If they're not involved with it,
I mean, maybe, so why did the one fail? Did we not get approval from the people, or?
we got, so to back up to that one, if we want to go through that one,
That one are we talking about?
Palisade Drive.
Oh, Palisade, oh, yes.
So it did go through a public process. We did have a meeting. The only ones who showed up were the ones who wanted it. Yeah. So we moved forward with the same plan, and that's when it all went sideways.
So what does it look like? Like you have to go house to house to get 50%.
So now what we do though, the way that the traffic calming is set up is if Marlon came in and said, look, we need to have something here. That's like, great, Marlon. You need to go out and rally the troops. And when you get the troops rallied, come back to me. Because it's really not,
Put it on that.
yeah, so we put more of the ownership on them. He wants to go out and do all the talking because really what happens is it comes down to a public clamor that happens and the council's like, well, Sam, I know you want it, but I got 50 people here that don't want it. And if you're telling me it'll work, then we're gonna,
So do you have criteria? In this case, what if the downhill speed was 40? What if it was 45? Is there a criteria where, you know what, from public safety standpoint, it doesn't matter what the neighbors want. This road is it needs to have something there.
Yeah.
Do you have any
I
criteria?
mean, I
like
could
that?
probably get 50% buy-in to make State Street 7.
Right.
We're not gonna do it, right? Like, at some point, you're right,
That's a
transportation
UDOT
safety is an engineering.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna do the right thing.
we jumped a step here because usually what should have happened is they came to us, we should get the petition. We went ahead and did the speed test just to see. It's like, you know, sometimes we go out there and like, there's not a speed bump here at all. This one was like, yeah. So now with that, because I took a lot of lumps and bumps on the last one, we're gonna have some options and then we'll get everyone to buy in before we invest.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, there's no, yeah, didn't mean to have that. It was more of the chokers and the bull bus that I got beat up with. Everyone likes the bumps. It's the other stuff.
I don't like the bump. Stupid. But I live on.
So anyways, yeah. So that was.
So what's our plan to jointly talk about the transportation plan? You know, is it, do we come back next month with and dedicate the whole meeting to philosophy of transportation? Do we have an ad hoc meeting to talk about it? What are we,
That's up to you guys. I will say we are in the process of updating our impact fees. So that's why we're wanting to get this master plan. It's one of the last ones that needs to be in place, the update, so they can move forward, the consultant move forward the fees. So I would say January would be nice to be able to have it approved. It would help, I think, because we only have one council meeting in December. And I don't know if we only have one in January or not.
The calendar hasn't been released for January. I don't think.
Yeah, we're not doing, no November, no December, right?
For
The tax meeting.
well,
Yeah.
we're already in November.
Oh, no January, that's what you decided.
Yeah, because it's right after.
That's right.
So it would, to me, it would be
You're right.
nice to have an ad hoc if we needed to have one in a couple weeks and then one again. I mean, it would be good because I think while it's fresh on everyone's mind, we probably don't want to get it drug out too far because then December, I think we have TAC in December. It'd be nice to have it finalized. 'Cause I think we're all gonna probably have a hard time the rest of that month trying to meet midweek or have time to look at it because you got work and you got church and you got family and
A
whatever
million
types of
events,
reasons. Yeah. But that's my suggestion. It's up to the chair.
My only concern, like, let's say, for example, philosophically, we want more focus on bikes, right? Bike pedestrian. That changes the cost of projects because we want more focus elsewhere, but that's not gonna be reflected in whatever philosophical ideas we have. So fundamentally, we can't change much project-wise, right? Or we send it back to Horrocks and we tell them, you need to fix all these projects that don't focus on this. And we want emphasis on whatever we come up with. We can make a philosophical change, but it doesn't change projects anymore unless we change the projects.
Yeah, but I mean, I think too, you're gonna provide some, in my mind, you're also providing council some direction, saying, look, we've looked at this plan, this is an update. But generally, we've identified a few things, but we have also added in here that by the next update, we wanna see substantial, we wanna see projects that are based more around public transit is the term now. We want more active transportation. We want other modes really investigated and things looked at. We would really like to see that direction because we feel, you can say it however you want. This is just me giving you examples of what to say. We feel like right now, currently, there may not be an appetite for density, but we know in 30 years, that's probably gonna change. And we would like to identify areas and talk about that. Maybe it's like a simple thing, hey, we don't want the city to have anything over a 5-lane road that's a city-owned facility.
So are we talking, instead of necessarily really working in the plan and updating it, rewordsmithing and the whole thing, maybe a cover letter
Yeah, like an
With-
overlay.
with
That's
a
what I was just
philosophical,
Yeah.
look,
Yep.
in the plan,
Our
it says
thought.
State Street or Center Street goes to 7. We think that's wrong. And it should be, we should put this limited. We should focus on this, we should focus on that. So more of a cover letter philosophical statement than actually going into the plan and trying to change
What
what's
we
in there.
will do, the next one we do, I will just hire a consultant. We will rip it down just like we would an old car and
Right.
restore the whole thing.
Right.
This one was we just put a brand new paint job on it. Maybe some
Well, and
tires.
if
a
it
few
comes to the
things.
city council and the city council has to approve XYZ project, but and it's in conjunction with the plan, but we've got this philosophical statement, then you have this, okay, yeah, it's in the plan, but people are thinking differently, and it would give you something, some leverage to have a different conversation than you might otherwise. Does that seem reasonable?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Because I think there's a growing, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I think everyone needs to realize there's a lot of different opinions here.
Mhm.
And they have a vision, the council has a vision, and maybe Jeff can agree or disagree, but they have a vision of what they want to do with the city. You guys are from all different walks of life. You can say, well, we live here too. We agree with this, but we know we need to be going down this path, so we need to figure out how can we get to here, and this is what we think we should do. Maybe I just
Yeah,
reiterated
I
what
love
you said.
that. I love what you're saying because that, that kind of. It is forward thinking. It's not really a foundation, but it's like, this is something that, this is reality. This is the world that we're living in, and this is the world that we're going to be living in. We need to be continually thinking about this because growth is happening and it's going to continue to happen. We need to know philosophically what we want one to look like throughout that process, not only today, but in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And using Center Street as an example, this is what we think it should be.
So how do we, what's the mechanics of making that happen?
Well, I think we do the same thing, right? We all come with our ideas and then we can just make an outline and
Okay,
then write up. I like the idea. I mean, we're not gonna fundamentally change it, that's my point, right? But
Yeah,
I
we don't
think
want to
Jeff's
blow it
right.
up. We don't
If
want to
we put our thoughts, and the cover, I love that.
would it be reasonable for us to have an ad hoc meeting in a couple of weeks? Specifically with the goal to talk about nothing more than the TMP and philosophical, whether it's dealing with high density, dealing with Center Street, dealing with the university, which I live close to the university and there's a lot of things that I'd like to see done differently there from a transportation standpoint. We all come, we put it on the table, we talk about each other's ideas, and we leave with an outline and somebody assigned to go put pen to paper to write it up so that we can all approve it.
I like it. I mean, you guys can go as far in the weeds or stay 30,000 feet. I mean, even if you want things to be wide to 5 lanes, do you want things to be wide to 5 lanes? Do you want to maintain the integrity of the neighborhoods, or do you want to have the frontage roads? I mean, you guys want to, do you want to provide, we should look at these things in the future because our goals are to maintain whatever, whatever you guys want to do. I mean, I guess it's definitely some food to think of, thought for the next few weeks, but.
5:30 in 2 weeks.
That would be the 15th, right?
Yeah.
I won't be here the 15th.
Yeah, I don't think
to
I will
attend.
but I'll be here the 22nd, the next. Is that right before
That's right
Thanksgiving?
before
though?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
And it doesn't have to be a Tuesday either. We can-
Right.
Yeah, you guys can meet whenever.
Why don't we'll just have Cheryl send out an email with a couple proposed dates.
Yeah, so that's right, that'd be good.
See what people can do.
How many people are missing tonight?
Oh, I can tell you in a
I
second.
think it's 2. There's Laura and Kathleen.
And so two.
Yeah, there's 3 TAC members missing.
so there's 7 of us total.
So we're not gonna do it in 2 weeks.
Well, that could be one of the, we'll both be gone. So-
I will put it into my message to Cheryl to have her reach out and see what
Find
dates
a- find a
availability
date.
are. Yeah,
Yeah, good luck.
Why don't,
Cheryl. We
maybe
wish you luck.
she's a champ. She can get
if we can find a date in the next 2 to 3 weeks, that we can have an ad hoc meeting. Have her choose some, and if everybody comes back and says yes, then we found it. If we get to 5 out of the 7, I think we should go with it and have the other 2 submit what they can,
Or even Zoom in if it's
Yeah.
available.
Zoom in or somehow ultimately they'd have a chance to read. I think we come up with an outline, somebody writes it up, and within a week, we send it out to all 7 to, okay, this was what was written based on the conversations we had. So we can all approve it before December meeting.
So we could create, if someone wants to create an outline, we can create a Google Doc and get it out to everyone. They can collaborate. If you had something else, we can send that out. You guys can collaborate. We can, to your point, maybe we aren't all here, but enough can come here, look at the comments. And it could be Veterans Day, it could be in a week and a half, whatever you guys.
I need time to read this again.
Okay.
With a different view in mind.
Let's just have her throw it out to all of us, and the 3 that aren't here, with suggested dates the next 2 weeks.
And I can add in the Google Doc idea for her as well.
Yeah. And maybe it won't be till next TAC. I don't know. If we can get the doc out, people can look at it. It takes time. I guess the whole thing is everyone committing to it, doing it.
I think we should hope to approve it at the December meeting. So that then you could still pretty much be on target for your January with the city council. I mean, I don't want this to stretch out anymore than.
You should probably tell the other 3 about next Wednesday's meeting.
Oh, yep, that's already in the message to her.
Are you still gonna hold that?
The
yeah,
working session.
Yeah, Jamie will still want kind of an update, and that might be something good to have. It's like, we agree with where it's at. Maybe it's something that you can speak to Jay specifically, is we agree with where it's at. We're just, as we look at it, we'd like to provide like a cover letter or a summary, or however we want to look at just the direction, because we would like this plan, to be forward thinking. And these are some of the ideas we are looking at. And it might be a good time. There might be a little back and forth with that to listen to. There's a few folks that are not into apartments in higher density. There's some that might be, and it might be a good time for everyone to sit and think about it and chew on it for a little bit. So, because most of them are kind of boring, but this one is usually, you start bringing up these things that can stir about.
People have us. Well, we all experience it. Some things you may not, but
Yeah, no, I agree.
you all have to get somewhere at some point.
Flying cars.
It's interesting. UDOT's already planning that. They've already looked at corridors and they've looked at different levels. Just because they know that drones are coming in and delivering.
Well, I mean,
I
you
just-
got those,
what are the
those
chances people
flying
can
cars
fly in
are.
Car when they can't drive a car.
That's
what I
I'm
fear.
looking at the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Where you
Jetsons
jump in
are
and the
cool.
car just takes you.
Oh, the car's gonna do that.
They're testing.
There's a European country out there. They're looking at it's a drone. It's a unmanned drone, but you go in and it's like a sky taxi.
Yeah.
You would jump in and it's, I don't know, it's 6 or 8 props. I mean, it's all concept, but you get in it, it'll take you to the next little thing and jump off a big conveyor that charges the battery. I mean, it's not that far away.
Like a gondola.
Except that it's not tethered because it's
Right.
a go, she said, a drone.
But yeah, you just jump on the little moving walkway and it would go.
Glad I'm not up there, man. Yeah, a little complicated.
It's obviously not here, much more dense area. I mean, it's
Can't
probably something
imagine
you
a
can see
bigger
in
flight than a gondola.
Shanghai or something like that.
Why
But
don't they make it an underground tunnel going up? No smell.
yeah,
That would be logical. It's more
I
expensive.
don't have the energy for that.
but yeah,
But does Elon Musk, doesn't he have that boring?
never even thought about that. But I mean, that's the thing too, I guess. UDOT has a conference and I should have thought about that. Inviting you guys to go to the UDOT conference. I mean, was there anything that these guys would have liked? You guys went to it.
There was just an opportunity to tell UDOT what we think.
Well, and it's,
Would be
you're not
worth
necessarily
waiting
talking to UDOT, but you get to see all of the vendors, every engineering firm, every supplier.
Definitely see where UDOT's going on with philosophy.
They have all their booths and kind of show what they do, what kind of things they manage.
So is it just for UDOT?
No, it's all, like I said, all the cities can go and don't go. if they're not at a booth.
Yeah, the premise was UDOT created their own conference to give their own engineers their CEUs. But the vendors are the ones who set up all the booths, they sponsorships, but local governments, anyone could go. But I never even thought about that.
And
Would
now
you
it's
guys be
regulated
interested in
techniques.
something like that?
I would go.
There's also APA has a spring and a fall conference as well, the American Planning Association. So that's not a bad thing to go to those just to see those items too. If that's something you guys are interested in.
The Zero Fatality Summit, I thought was one of the best ones. It's a really good one. There's a pedestrian summit, so the other year, they alternate zero fatalities.
Yeah, they're about this year.
I'll put those up to you guys. You guys can hang out with all the other nerds.
That one bus.
Yeah, you can take.
So the zero fatalities and pedestrian summit, there's a lot of first responders and hospitals show up for that. There's more non-engineers at that one than the engineers.
Are you saying the whole building full of engineers might not be fun? Is that the
I think it's
implication?
a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're talking, it depends. My wife would be bored. You guys might be bored.
We have a good time.
If you need a nap, go to that. We have a guy we have the drones and do laser scanning and build facilities like FAA radar and things like that. We have a guy that we hired and he'll write a 2-page email that's technical and all this and what he's gonna do with this data. And then at the bottom, I'm having so much fun. Dude, you are not, that is not fun. Yeah, he's complete nerd. So, anyway. We're beyond our normal time.
We adjourn.
Second, pretty productive. So yeah, is that all? Do we have anything else? Is that what we wanted?
We had the review and approve the meeting calendar for 2023, but I don't know that we have. But we can talk about that.
The way the calendar, excuse me, currently set up, it's the first Tuesday of every month. I think we look to possibly eliminate July, I think for sure.
July, January, and
Yeah. Those are the points that we're immediately aware of, but if there's any other discussion open to that.
So the intent just to approve the calendar for 23?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have any objections to that.
I move we accept the calendar as currently constituted.
For 2023.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Opposed?
Carried.
That was easy.
No, I thought it adjourned.
You're adjourned.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah,
Second.
sorry, we started with the adjournment.
All in favor?
of that?
Yes, I.
Yes. All right.
Thanks for your time, guys. I
Thanks,
appreciate
staff.
that.
And new staff.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Dale staff.
Yes,
Dale.
Dale staff. I won't be at the meetings very often unless Cheryl needs me. This was delightful.
Grammar requests.
It was fun.
Covered.
I
I think